You are on mute, Shamla ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, students, do you want me to summarize or do you want me to continue with that? Whatever I've explained till now, is it clear?
Clear, ma'am.
Clear? You want me to continue these three topics? Should I continue today? What to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Sure. So, first of all, we talk about what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. So, allocation of resources refers to the problem of assigning the scarce resources so that the maximum wants of the society are fulfilled. As I told you that human beings are a bundle of desires. Our wants are unlimited. They keep on multiplying. They are not even added. They are only multiplied. If one want is satisfied, the other want will comes immediately. So allocation of the resources, that means of the scarce resources in a manner so that maximum wants of the society can be fulfilled. So as the resources are limited in relation to the unlimited wants, you have to economize their use and utilize them in the most efficient manner. That is what you call it as judicious use, efficient use of the resources, which is also called as a sustainable development. Can anyone give me the definition of what do you mean by sustainable development?
Continuous development.
Continuous development without stopping the present development, as well as passing on the resources to the next generations, is what is called as sustainable development. So this is where I'm talking about economizing the use and utilizing them the most judicious way is referred to as the allocation of the resources. So the allocation of resources will be studied under these problems. So what to produce? First question is what to produce. This is selection of goods and services to be produced and the quantity to be produced of each selected commodity. That means every economy has limited resources and cannot produce all the goods. This is one aspect. Every country cannot produce all the goods and in unlimited quantities, not possible. So first they have to decide what goods have to be produced, in what quantity they have to be produced. Second problem is that one good or service usually means less of the others. That means, suppose you cannot produce, for example, if you are producing more sugar, you have to reduce the production of other goods also. So every country has to decide whether they want to produce more of consumer goods, more of capital goods, or they want to go for war goods. Three goods we talk about. What do you mean by consumer goods? Which are used by the consumers in their day-to-day life, rice, wheat, basic essentials which are required in your life. That second one is that whether you want to go for capital goods, machinery or equipments. And the third one is that whether you want to go for war goods like guns, tanks, or getting of aircrafts, airplanes, fighter planes, fighter jets. These are all the things. But every country requires all the three. It's not that you will not be able to get all this, but every country should be able to produce consumer goods, capital goods. Sujata, నేను తర్వాత మాట్లాడతా. Okay, so capital goods, consumer goods, and war goods. So all the three they have to decide properly. After deciding, then they have to decide how much of quantity should be produced. As I told you that unlimited quantity cannot be produced. Like for example, in our country, rice and wheat. In how many hectares they have to produce, how many hectares they have to use for cultivation of rice, how much of rice to be produced. This have to be decided properly. So if you're talking about the quantity of consumer goods, quantity of quality good, capital goods, and quantity of war goods. All the three have to be decided properly. This is the first question, what to produce. Is it clear? Any doubts?
Yes, madam.
Can I go to you have any doubts? No?
No, madam. Next.
So can I go to the second question? How to produce? Now, this problem refers to the technique of production to be used, the technique to be used for production of goods and services. Now, a good can be produced by using different techniques. Usually there are two techniques. One is called as labor intensive technique, capital intensive technique. Always you should be able to know the differentiation between labor intensive, capital intensive. Any idea, can anyone tell me what is the difference between labor intensive and capital intensive? Okay. In labor intensive technique, more labor, less capital is in. That means number of machines will be less, more labor will be employed. That means you are making the people to work. India adopts labor intensive because our population is more. We go for more labor intensive so that you can provide more employment opportunities. Capital intensive techniques are those where you go for more machines, less number of people, because it depends upon the country's population. Like China and India are the most populous countries of the world. Usually they go for labor intensive techniques because you have to provide employment to so many people. Whereas countries like US, Canada, Australia, or UK, if you take for example, they will go for capital intensive techniques. Why? Because it is more capital they have, less amount of people they have. So this is very easy concept. How to produce is using the technique, whether you are using a labor intensive technique or a capital intensive technique, depending upon the objective. That means a selection of technique will be made with a view to raise the standard of living of the people or to provide employment. It all depends upon the country. Like I told you, in India, we try to provide more employment, so we go for labor intensive techniques. Next comes for whom to produce. The concept here is that for whom to produce is that selection of the category of people who will ultimately consume the goods. That means whether to produce the goods for more poor, less rich, or more rich and less poor. This has to be decided by the country. So, for whom are you producing will be depending upon the category of people you are selecting. Like for example, you call it as luxury goods, then you call it as essential commodities, then you have the comfort zones. These are all the various categories we have in the goods. That is what the VAT also comes. The VAT increases if you are going for a luxury good, you are going for a comfort goods. If it is an essential commodity, maybe the VAT may be less for it. So it depends. That is why the government has divided in that particular manner as such. Okay. So since the resources are very scarce, you cannot satisfy all the wants of the people. So a problem of choice arises here. So luxury goods will be produced only for those people who have the paying capacity. Like for example, high-end cars, luxury cars, or you talk about, actually in marketing also we have something called as skimming strategies. What is a skimming strategy is that they will select the top 10%, 5% of the people who are very rich and who afford and who wants to buy that particular product. They will only produce the goods for that particular section. This is what is called as for whom to produce. So you have to first design. When you are making a product, are you going to target the so-called rich people, elite class, upper middle class, lower middle class, and then the poorer sections? When you are deciding for whom to produce, these are the categories. You have to divide your products and then produce, because you cannot produce all the goods for all the people. Because of the scarcity of the resources, choice has to be made as to which category of people you are going to target. So the capacity of people to pay for goods depends upon the level of income. I told you just now that when you are dividing, naturally you are dividing according to the level of the income and the purchasing power of the people. Higher the income, higher the purchasing power, higher the standard of living. It all depends upon the entire concept called as income, salary, what you earn. In which category you are falling, accordingly you will buy. It means this problem is concerned with distribution of income among the various factors of production. What are the factors of production? What are
Labor,
the
Land, labor,
labor,
capital, organization.
Very good. Land, labor, capital, and organization. So, how are you going to distribute the income among these factors of production is what contributes to the production process as such. So, the problem is again categorized into two main heads. It means how the national income is distributed among different groups of people. Now, it is always said that the income is inequitably distributed among the people. That means actually it is said that the top 10% of the people should be able to get lesser amount of money and the remaining population should be able to get the higher chunk of money. But the problem is it is the reverse. Okay, maybe it is said that the 10% of the people enjoy the maximum amount of money and the rest of the population will be enjoying the remaining part of the money, which is called as inequitable distribution of resources. That is the reason why the problem comes. Then it also involves a sharing of different factors of production in the total national product of the country. So all these are very simple terms. Instead of going into that all those things, the main problem we talk about is that the goods which you are producing have to be categorized according to the income levels of the people. How much to produce, how to produce will depend. Naturally, when you are dividing them into elite people, rich people, upper middle class, lower middle class, or middle class, you call it as, then accordingly, what is the percentage of products you have to produce in the country. So the industries, the economies will have this idea as to what is the total consumption, what should be produced, and how to produce. They cannot go for unlimited production, as I told you that there is scarcity of the resources as such. Am I clear with this? Then the other one we talk about is the opportunity cost is the next best alternative forgotten. So next alternative forgone or you have not taken it is that suppose if a particular person gets a job, he gets a job 30,000, 20,000, 10,000. So naturally he will go for a 35,000. Suppose if I say he is getting about 35, 30 or 20. Naturally, that person will take the best job only. That means you are leaving the other alternatives in order to live a better standard of life, or you are trying to have a better life for your life also. For example, I'll give you one more example. What do you mean by opportunity cost? Is that where you are forced to make a choice. You have 20,000 rupees. You want to purchase one computer or you want and a LCD TV also. But you cannot buy both. The concept is with 20,000, you cannot buy a computer and a LCD TV. Either you buy a computer, either you buy a LCD TV. If you decide to purchase computer, that means you are giving up your desire of buying a LCD TV. That means you are foregoing the satisfaction of buying a
TV, LCD TV.
LCD TV. This is what is called as fundamental economic condition. That is, as our resources are limited, you're always forced to make choices between alternate commodities. Like I told you that you may have 10 wants, but you prioritize the wants, tick, which is important, and the rest will be postponed. This is what is called as opportunity cost. And because our resources are limited, you cannot satisfy, because already I mentioned that human beings are a bundle of desires, unlimited wants and limited means, by which you will be satisfying certain wants. Some wants have to be forgotten for life also. There are some people who may desire to buy certain things, but throughout their whole life, they will not be able to do this. Okay. So today I will stop here so that next lesson I will be talking about the PPFs and many other concepts will come. That will be a bit tough because I don't want to burden so much as such. This is enough for you all. If you are able to get clarity with macroeconomics, microeconomics, and the three central problems, because these are the basic things which I've seen mostly in the UPSC papers, where what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. All these are the concepts. Any other doubts if you have in the next class, once again we will repeat and then we will continue with the other concepts whichever are there in economics. Yes, Shailaja?
Yeah, thank you very much, Shamla. Any doubts in today's class? I think it's clear.
Yes,
Right?
madam. Yes, madam.
Yeah. Thank you, Shamla.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am.
Yeah, tell me. Sivanandini, any doubt?
How Germany recovered from inflation, ma'am?
How Germany
Recovered from inflation.
recovered from inflation is that wherein they tried to produce more, contributed to the country. It all depends upon the government. It all depends upon the people. Yeah, that is the patriotism. Especially the government plays a very important role here. If the government is really committed to doing something, definitely they will be able to do this. Like for example, who was the German chancellor who retired recently? Let me see your knowledge. Who was the president? She was a lady. Okay, you find out and tell me. I will not tell the name. You should know that. So the German president, that lady, it seems she used to live in a rented apartment. Okay, and she used to travel by a metro, and she never accumulated any property. And she used to work like a common man and understand the problems as such. Okay, this is where you call it as the commitment. That is how Germany was able to come together. Actually, I tell you that after the Second World War, Germany was divided into East Germany and West Germany. West Germany is a capitalist economy, East Germany is a socialist economy. It was very, very, Merkel and Angela Merkel. Very good, man. Yashashwini, thank you so much. So, Merkel, if you read her, she is the most simplest politician who was able to bring to this. Yeah, I was talking about East Germany, West Germany. East Germany is a socialist country. West Germany is a G7 country. You know, the G7 countries are the most top countries with highest per capita income. But when these two countries joined, they were able to integrate and then work hard and was able to bring about this stability. And today, Germany is the leading country in whichever way you talk about. So it all depends upon the countries. That means when you increase the production, when will you bring down the inflation is that you should be able to increase the production, you should be able to create employment and see that there is no poverty. If you can do this, then the inflation definitely comes down. It all depends upon the government's role here. Even India also can do it. Only thing is that the government should also be more responsible, should be able to do some things. Anything else? Any other doubt, ma?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.